I'm doing an interview with Caleb Arbaugh. He's got some experience in the social media world. He's kind of a content creator. Is that what you call yourself, or would you use something else?
No, that's fine. Content creators chill.
Okay, sick. He also attends a church that I work at with his dad and his brother and his sister-in-law. And he's been doing this for a while. Would you say that you do this kind of for a living, or?
Yeah, definitely do this for a living officially since 2023.
Okay, so what is your job exactly?
I would say social media is my job right now. Digital marketing.
Okay, so you do a lot of marketing with different businesses and companies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when did that get started, or how did that part get started of your social media or media business stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of social media people or content creators, influencers, they get their main revenue, their main income by brand partnerships. Okay. And then, like ad revenue is next. Like every social media platform pays via ad revenue. And then there's other things too, like merchandise, which is really big. But the majority of most content creators' income is going to come from brand partnerships. Okay. I think I got my first brand partnership probably maybe like 2022 or something. At that point, I was outreaching to every single brand, company, everything at that point, and I would do videos for like literally anything. Like if they sent me a pen, I would do a video on it. So then I would ask for like $20, $50, $100, and now I'm able to ask a little bit more. I've got a little bit more of a catalog.
Did you ever do a video on a pen?
You know what? I have done a video on a pen before, actually.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, right on. So just a couple more kind of like warm-up questions, I guess. Cool. But also to kind of get to, excuse me, not you. Just to kind of get to know how all of it kind of got started in a sense. So how did you kind of get into social media?
Man, I guess I grew up in the like early stages of, or I guess the early age of YouTube, like the early 2010s of YouTube. So I've always been very intrigued by video creation, editing, just kind of like creative direction in general. So I think like I started a YouTube channel. I have one from like 2011. Mm-hmm. So I've been editing and doing videos since like at least 2011. So like coming up on quite a while. But then during COVID, everyone really took social media more serious just because it was a lot easier to take advantage of. So I kind of revived it back in 2020.
Okay. That's cool. What was like, do you have a favorite video or a favorite type of media or something that you've created or that you still kind of like what's kind of your favorite thing to do, or do you have like a favorite project that you've been a part of or something like that?
Man, I guess as far as media goes, I think my longtime favorite type of watchable media is probably like music videos. I think I've been hooked on music videos for such a long time. Like that's probably what my longest stint of content consumption has been, probably music videos. So music related for a while, and then that's probably the hardiest thing. Yeah.
What type of music videos?
Literally anything. I've consumed every type, and I just love music videos. I like putting a name, like a face to the sound, the music.
Yeah, that's dope. Okay, so kind of moving on to more of the main focus of this interview.
Sweet.
So we were supposed to select something from our class, like the objectives of the class, in a sense. And the objective that I selected to kind of mainly focus on this interview, because I thought it'd be the most interesting, is talking about how Christians can faithfully steward media for evangelism and missions. So just how do we as a church use media in order to tell people about Jesus, basically, because there's a lot of misuse of media in the church, and there's a lot of good use of media. But I feel like you'd have a unique perspective, especially because you're not in the Christian media world, as far as I can tell, or from what I've seen. So just got a couple questions through that, and then feel free to kind of just like branch out. I'll try to maybe ask some questions that make more sense.
All right, cool.
But the first one is, how is media a powerful tool that can be used in the shaping of culture in the minds of those who consume it? So if these are confusing at all, I'll try to explain them better.
That's cool.
But I'll read that one more time.
Sure.
How is media a powerful tool that can be used in the shaping of culture in the minds of those who consume it?
Dang. Well, social media right now is basically replaced all types of, advertising. So if you want to get your business, if you're an artist, if you're a brand, if you're a company, if you are a restaurant, if you are a church, if you're literally anything, the best way to reach multitudes of people is via social media. Social media is just fed to people these days. Back in the day, like when YouTube was very, very infant, you had to go looking for social media. You had to go kind of looking for these videos. Same with kind of like Facebook, is you had your friend group and you were kind of just being fed what your close friends were into. So now it's just all of us are chronically on our phones and we're just kind of being fed media, we're being fed advertisements, we're being fed all types of things. So if you're a brand or a business, like you just have to be on social media.
That makes sense. Do you think it's a good thing when we talk about churches trying to utilize social media and stuff like that? Like, is there good or is there bad in it? Like overall, what would you say?
I mean, overall, I think it's a good thing. I think it's just where you know the world is at right now. This is how the world responds to it's. I mean, most of the stuff that you are into, most of the things that you like, the food you like nowadays, a lot of that is influenced. So I think social media is just a tool to influence.
Yeah.
And I think the church, anything can really benefit from it.
There's a article that came out in 2015 that talked about websites, church websites, where every visitor to a church, it was like almost 100% of the new visitors trying out a new church check out the website before they go. And so that itself just shows how important it is to have a good standing in a sense, not in every single way, but turns out a website can be very impactful to getting someone through the doors at a church.
Absolutely.
What would you say are the three main media, like, I don't know, like Instagram, TikTok, or like what are the biggest things right now? Like if I were like a church plant or just a church trying to get people to come and hear about Jesus, or the way to reach people, what forms or platforms would you say are best?
I would say the three top things to do if you were a church are: one, utilize. I think the bottom of that would be just like long form YouTube, just because it's not necessarily outdated. I think it will always have a solidified place in media, but I think it's used the least. But I would definitely say the top two would be, any form of short form content, probably Instagram number one. Instagram's a platform that really pushes for you to leave the site, leave the app. So it's very easy to leave. Things like TikTok and Facebook are a little bit more difficult to leave the app. They want you to keep you on the app. So Instagram, but the nice thing about that is a lot of your social posts can be syndicated to all of those platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts, or whatever I missed, Instagram. You could also post the same exact piece of media to like LinkedIn, where the church could probably utilize LinkedIn a lot more. Then you could also use that same post for Snapchat. So one piece of media that you could create could get syndicated to 6 different platforms and really increase the amount. The other one is definitely paid advertisement. So if you put a little bit of money into a post, you can pay for those posts to reach more people. You can even put that into a specific area. You can say, I want these advertisements to only reach a radius of Butte, Montana, and then people scrolling will get an advertisement. So those two things are probably the biggest.
Is paid advertisement actually effective, or is it because I feel like when I was using social media or when I'm watching something, my goal is to just get through it and never really paying attention, but how effective would that actually be?
Super effective. I mean, I've worked with brands that they'll put like $50 million a year into just paid advertising, and just their Facebook meta advertising. I was working with a company recently that they were getting like a new subscriber on YouTube for every 3 cents they put into paid advertising. So they were able to grow a YouTube channel to like 1 million subs incredibly quickly. Some brands will put in $5 and they'll return $7. They'll return $5.50. So at that point, you put $1 million in, you get $1.5 million back.
Oh, that's interesting. I always doubt that, but it makes sense. My brother's in marketing too, and he does email marketing, and just how much he gets paid just to do email marketing. Because to me, that feels like one of the least things that might work, but it works so great for him. So that's fascinating. So kind of maybe switching gears a little bit.
Sure.
When media is misused, because I feel like that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
When media is misused, do you believe it drives people away more than it would bring people in if it was used correctly. Does that make sense? So like if it's used correctly, it might bring people in, but if it's misused, do you think could be a force that would drive people away more so? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think historically that's just true in general. I think media has been misused since the dawn of media. I mean, yeah. So yeah, definitely. I guess, yeah. No real explanation there. I think that's just a true thing.
Yeah, I get that. Sorry, it was more of a kind of confusing question, but I was pondering that when I was kind of writing up these questions. Okay, shifting more towards the church,
Okay.
What do you believe is an impactful way that the church can use media in order to share the gospel to the surrounding culture? So, like, you kind of hit on this a little bit when you were talking about Butte and the surrounding area, like how you can specifically do paid advertisement and stuff like that. But how would you say, like, if a church came to you because they saw your expertise and were seeking advice, how would you help them in that area?
I guess, well, if the biggest misconception about social media is that just consistency of posting is the biggest way to grow any kind of audience. So if a church came to me, I would definitely look at how often they're posting, what they're posting, and then I would just try to 5-10x that and just see kind of where that goes and sort of adjust accordingly, basically. I think for a church that you can only say, like come to church so many times. There's only so many like, oh, you should come to Sunday morning or Wednesday night so many times in posts. So you would have to try a different angle in which I would just basically show what is happening at church or kind of highlights from either the sermons or the speaking and just post those on like regular basis.
Yeah. Do you feel like when a lot of stuff is being repeated, like by someone like a church or a company, when it's the same thing, like come to church, come to church, come to church, or do you feel like that becomes kind of a deterrent more than an attractant?
I think at some point it can. I mean, algorithms these days are just so smart. So you really just build your social profile. Like all of us in this room have a different social profile. So we will just see, like we build exactly what we're expecting to see. These algorithms are so smart. So it's way less of just like, come do this, come do this, come do this. It would pretty much tailor to your interests, but I don't know what the statistic is, but they always say, you need to see the same person 6 times, or you need to see the same advertisement 6 times before you actually convert, before you actually follow. So, I guess it never hurts to hear the same thing 5 or 6 times, but there's only just so many times that, it wouldn't help a church to say, come to Sunday, 7 posts a week. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, to maybe have some difference, or at least, like you were saying, showing whether it's, and you mentioned the amount of content that is being put out is helpful, and how you would check and see how much a church or a brand would be using it, and then you would times it by 10.
Yeah.
How much content would you say that you put out on a weekly basis?
I aim for at least 7 posts a week, but shoot, man, if I could do 100 posts a week, I would.
Okay.
That was capable, I guess.
Is that like 7 posts on one platform? Is that, or when you post, do you post on all platforms that you use?
Yep, I post one thing to every single platform.
Okay. So like a different post to each platform?
No, the same post, but it just gets syndicated to all platforms. Every audience, like your Facebook audience is going to be different than your YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. They're all just different audiences. There's really no overlap in audiences. You'd be incredibly surprised that, you have core followers here, and here in all different platforms. You'd be surprised at like how many people don't follow you on every platform. In fact, it's incredibly small. I would bet that one person follows me on one thing and not multiple. So yeah, the one post gets put to every single platform.
That's actually really interesting. I've never even thought about that. In my head, I assume that you get your supporters, and then they want to make sure that they support you in every form and format if they really like your content or what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, think of how many people, like, do you support the same person across multiple platforms? Maybe like 1 or 2 people, but definitely not like every single person.
Yeah, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. Okay, just a couple more questions. Do you think the media is more effective in reaching the local community or wider audiences around the world? So is it more effective on the local part, or more on a global or maybe countrywide perspective, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, At the beginning, what I took a gym recently as a client of mine to help with their social media, and I basically told them, like, if you want to market towards Butte because your clients are going to be in Butte, but as far as your social media goes, you want to reach even farther than that. You want to get bigger than Montana. You want to get bigger than the United States. You want to eventually go global with your content. I think it's pretty cool that you could create something at Park Street at the church and it could reach somebody globally. I think that's pretty cool. So definitely, yeah, definitely both. I think it's social media will definitely impact both in a good way.
That's fascinating. Okay, just last question, I guess. In your opinion, what is the most important thing for the church to do for it to reach its surrounding community? And this could be outside of media.
Yeah.
But maybe could, if you can, answer it in both ways, inside of media and outside of media.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to adjust to what the current trends of outreach are going to be. I think a lot of times a business or a brand or a company, even a church, will get stuck doing one thing for too long. Like back when I was in college, it was, we could just play football down on the field and people seeing that would just be interested enough to come play. I don't know how much that's changed, but I could imagine it's changed enough to where you would have to make some kind of changes. So I think you just have to keep up with, just the current changes of what does a conversion. That's a huge term in social media, is conversion. What can you do to create a conversion? And a church needs to create a conversion somehow. I mean, they need 2 conversions, hopefully, but they need to create a conversion into, if you see something, whether that be a flyer, if they see you, if they see your t-shirt, if they see one of us, if they see social media posts, if they see an advertisement, if they see something, you really want that to create a conversion. So if you just track a trend on what can create conversions, that's what the church or any business or brand needs to take advantage of. So yeah, social media is great for that. At one point, like hanging up flyers was the way to go. For like the longest time, you could hang up flyers around the community, around the campus, and that would create conversion. But nowadays, like, social media is just a really, really good tool to create conversion. So just whatever creates conversion, and social media just happens to be the best at that.
Do you foresee something? Sorry, I said that was the last question,
dude,
but
give me more.
Do you foresee social media like having a longer stint of being like kind of the way to reach people? Do you see it growing more, or do you see maybe something else coming in to kind of take that place?
I just think, it's hard to tell what's going to be the next thing, but for right now and for like the foreseeable future that I can see, social media, digital marketing is just going to be the king of advertising right now. It's going to be the king of getting somebody to see something and getting something to buy, go in person and like act on something. So I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. I don't know what's going to happen a year from now. It could be completely different. Like even the last 3 or 4 years, videos have taken over, like short form videos. Like at one point in the early days of social media, it's like a static post. And then Instagram introduced carousels, and those were how you do stuff. And now it's reels, but not just any reel. Now it's a reel where you have to like talk. So everything is changing. At one point it was like super highly edited videos was how you do conversion. And now it's more raw organic content that does conversion. So it's just always adjusting to what that is.
It seems like media has kind of always been around, just kind of in different forms, but it's just the changes inside of media, because it's just a medium. That's, I guess, the media is the plural for the word medium. So then if we understand that there can be changes that happen inside of that.
Did you watch the new Superman movie?
I did.
Like in the Superman movie, there was, it was interesting to me how they still used like all forms of media in that. They still used the newspaper. So people were finding out about stuff that was going on in the newspaper, and they put a lot of stuff on that. The just like television advertising or television, like, the news, they were doing it on the radio, and a huge thing was social media in that. So in that, they kind of like covered the timeline of media all the way. Like they're still doing stuff with newspaper, but think about you probably haven't read a newspaper, maybe even ever.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I've ever even read an article in a newspaper.
That's crazy. No, that's really cool, and I think that's kind of a helpful thing for anybody to know, but also like any business, but especially for the church, because our goal is, like you were saying, is to get people to convert to Christ, because in our eyes that's that's the most important thing that they could do. And so if we believe that, we need to learn ways to push it in ways that are effective. And social media and media in general seems to be one of the most effective things of this age, and how we push it and how we get out the truth of Jesus and the reason that we even have church. Like, we shouldn't be pushing church just to get people to come to church because it's our business, but pushing church because it's actually something that's a fulfillment of what they're missing inside.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think a crazy thing about social media in the church that we didn't even cover on is that you could essentially create enough interest, you could create something and somebody could be led to Christ, or somebody could be saved without even you ever having a one-on-one conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've never been able to encounter before, is that if you make something and you are truthful about it and you're biblical about it, it could reach millions of people. And some of those millions of people could convert. Some of those people could show interest. Some of those people could, be enlightened and could be, give themselves up to Christ, revealing himself to them. And you would have no one-on-one conversation with them. You would have no FaceTime with them. And I think that's a very interesting thing to realize.
It's fascinating. I met, we had a kid, I think a year and a half ago, or 2 summers ago, who became a believer based off of videos he'd watched on YouTube. It was fascinating. I'd never heard of that before, and I would agree. For the first time ever, there's guys like Wesley Huff who are on these podcasts and stuff like that and being pushed out, who are just apologists or just out there to talk about Jesus. But for some reason, it's spreading kind of fast.
It's interesting. Yeah.
All right, sweet. I've got nothing else. I really appreciate your time. If there's anything else you want to say, if you want to plug anything to all the 2 people that are going to watch this, or my professor, maybe he'll subscribe to something. Or
no plugs here, man. Just go roll with this, see what happens. We'll see.
All right, say less. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right.